Welcome to the giant spring tutorial. The giant spring is a huge, powerful move that you can use to show your audience that you are the real deal. It is a move that is so recognizable it appears all the time in movies. Due to the nature of the move, the giant spring has to be taught using a very different method. So instead of teaching you the exact grip and the exact placement of fingers, we are going to learn the theory behind the giant spring. What you're going to see in a moment are two types of clips. One of me explaining the concepts behind the giant spring, and another the slow motion footage that illustrates the point. Let's get down to learning it. To do the giant spring, the first thing you need to know is how to do a normal spring. If you haven't seen it yet, please check out the tutorial right here. If you didn't learn how to do the giant spring from School of Cardistry, you may be using one of two different methods. The first one being the off the thumb method, where cards shoot one by one off the thumb, and the second one being the off the fingertips method, where cards are shot off your fingertips. Now, if you are doing your spring off your fingertips, that is going to be a problem. Because when you're doing the giant spring, the spring arcs upwards like this. If you shoot the cards off your fingertips, the cards will go outward and away from you. This makes your cards fly out towards your audience, and they may be a little offended about that. So instead of that, you want to make sure that your giant spring springs off your thumb. Now when doing the giant spring, there are three main elements to it. The first one is the way you pull your hand, the second one is the way you shoot the cards out, and the third one is the way you close your spring. Part 1. The pull. When doing the giant spring, you want to know the path that your right hand is going to take. When you see me do giant spring in my videos, my path is usually at about a 45-degree angle, going up and to the right, like this. Now, if you are a beginner first learning to do the giant spring, this is not advisable because that is the hardest path. Instead, you want to do a more vertical one like this. One more time, like this. This makes it much easier to learn the giant spring, and it makes it more forgiving. It allows you to make slight errors but still execute the move. So instead of learning the giant spring like this straight away, you will want to learn it more like this. Part 2. The springing hand. When you shoot cards out from a spring, usually you don't really need to control how fast the cards move out of your spring. You can do it slowly like that, or quickly, or even super slowly like this. But in a giant spring, the speed of your cards being shot out from your right hand is very important. So if your right hand is moving backwards at say 1 meter per second, you want the cards to shoot out from your right hand at about 1 meter per second. What this does is it creates an illusion where the cards are sort of stopped in mid-air. Whereas if the cards are moving out from your right hand slower than your right hand is being pulled back, it creates a situation where the cards float upwards and it becomes a very difficult to control spring. Part 3. Pulling back the spring. Now, a lot of beginners make the mistake of pulling back their spring way too early. Instead of opening up the spring to its full size and then closing it very quickly, they make the mistake of doing the spring and closing it at the same time. Now, in your head, it might seem very cool that the spring is moving from here to here, but when you look at it from an outsider's point of view, this creates a not very nice aesthetic. Instead, you want to pull your hand up as big as you can before moving your left hand. So open it up, and if you can, hold it for as long as possible, and then close the entire spring all at one go. What this does is it creates a giant spring effect, and then all at once the spring closes up. If after a while of practicing you realize that you can't do the giant spring, no worries. Here are some tips to help you check what is wrong with your spring. Firstly, listen to what your spring sounds like when you are not doing the giant spring. It should sound like a smooth, continuous sound as opposed to when you do a bad spring and it sounds like a jerky, discontinued sound. Tip number 2, borrow your friend's smartphone and take a slow motion video of yourself trying to do the giant spring. Analyze what is different between yours and the video that we're gonna play right now. Compare the small details. Is the way that my hand moves down before I start springing different from the way you do yours? As I pull my right hand backwards, look at how the cards are stationary in the air. Are yours the same? If not, are they moving downwards or upwards? If it's going downwards, you are springing the cards too quickly, and if it's moving upwards, you are springing the cards too slowly. Lastly, with that same video clip that you took, check whether your right hand and left hand are taking roughly the same path. The right hand and left hand should follow each other with a little bit of displacement for gravity. If you find yourself unable to capture the cards as you do the spring, check, is your left hand doing that bowl shape that you learned in the spring tutorial? Alright, so that's my guide to doing the giant spring. The giant spring is much more difficult than doing most of the other moves on School of Cardistry. This increase in difficulty is something that I'm not sure about. Do you guys like this slightly more difficult content? Let me know in the comment section below. Until next time, thank you for watching School of Cardistry. Hey guys, thank you for watching the tutorial. A lot has changed since we filmed this video. For one thing, my hair color is different now. But another is that the new deck order, School of Cardistry and myself is now supported by Patreons. Right now, I would like to thank our Patreon producers for helping to fund this channel. Shoutouts to 301 Cardistry, Sebastian Gopok Seal, Joel Almeida, Troy Hallwell, Liam Harris, Fang New Yen, and Kevin Ho for helping us to produce these tutorials. Shoutouts also to all our other Patreons. School of Cardistry wouldn't be possible without you. If you would like to see School of Cardistry tutorials early, Patreon exclusive tutorials, and NDO premium tutorials, or maybe even get a shout out on School of Cardistry, do check out our Patreon account here.